Hello everybody, welcome to episode 31 of Pins and Needles podcast. My name is Zoe. I live in South Wales in the UK with my husband, my 3 children and Jim the dog. You can find me on Ravelry and on Instagram as Pins and Needles UK. We do also have a Ravelry group, so you can just search in the groups tab and come and join in the chat there. And if you want to get in touch with me, send me a direct message or you can email me at hipinsandneedles@gmail.com. I will put timestamps and the details of everything I discussed today in the down bar below, and I put show notes up in the Ravelry group as well, so you can find out any of the details by there. I'm sorry this is a couple of days late. Normally I record on a Friday and then upload on a Saturday. But Friday was incredibly busy. My children are still on summer holidays. And Friday afternoon, it was sunny and beautiful. And so I'm afraid I chose taking my children to the beach over you. The weather's been really up and down in Wales. So when it's sunny, you got to go. You got to enjoy it. So we had a nice swim in the sea and dug sandcastles and had a nice time instead. And then yesterday I was working all day. So I didn't get a chance to podcast. So today is Sunday, I think it's the 3rd of September. So I will film and try and get it loaded onto YouTube today, fingers crossed. First of all, news flash regarding the Knitty Retreat. Mugs make it official. The Knitty Retreat is being organised by Jenny of Owl About Yarn and myself. It takes place in Cardiff next year, October 2018. And if you're curious about finding out more, you can follow us on Instagram. We are at the Knitty Retreat. And this week we have revealed our first tutor. And our first tutor is going to be the wonderful Anakin Alice. She is at Yarn Addict Annie on Instagram. She also has a wonderful website where she sells patterns and kits and all sorts. So again, I'll put all those details down below. Now, I'm sure you've heard of Anakin. She's a very prolific designer. She publishes in pretty much every knitting magazine ever written. Lots of British ones, Let's Knit, Knitting. She's been published in Vogue and in Debbie Bliss as well. So we're absolutely thrilled to have her as part of our very first retreat. And she is going to be teaching 3 different workshops. She's going to be teaching Shetland lace knitting, Fair Isle and steeking. So hopefully that will really excite some of you. She seems like such a lovely lady, so warm and so fun. So I've been doing like teaser pictures on Instagram all week. I did a big reveal and it sent out to the newsletter subscribers. So again, if you're interested in finding out more about the retreat, sign up to our newsletter and you can be the first to know, and you'll get first dibs on booking places and all of that kind of thing. So that was quite exciting, and I wrote up for the email reveal. I'd done a little email interview with Anakin, so I enjoyed writing all of that up. I'm quite new to MailChimp, so it took me most of the morning. Anakin had sent me some lovely sort of pictures that I could use on Instagram, and I was trying to fit them all into this document. Jenny is much better than me at this, but I am learning. Anyway, so that was the big news about the Knitty Retreat this week. In terms of life update stuff, still the summer holidays. We've only got a few days left. I think 2 of my kids go back Tuesday next week and 1 goes back on Wednesday. We did have a lovely weekend, the bank holiday weekend just gone. It was my mother-in-law's 70th birthday, so we all went up to Stratford-on-Avon, where I'm from originally. And there's a lovely river full of canal boats that runs right through the middle of the town. And there's a double wide canal boat called the Countess of Evesham, and it's a restaurant boat. So all of the family and some of her close friends all had a nice tootle up and down the river, ate some lunch and had a nice time. So that was fun. And then, what else? Oh, my eldest son Conrad, both of my boys really enjoyed Thai boxing, Muay Thai. And Conrad is old enough now to start having some inter-club fights. So they're just sort of friendly, not full power sparring, effectively, but between members of different clubs. So he came back on the Sunday so he could have his inter-club. Poor old Dave, he stayed up pretty much all Saturday night because he wanted to watch the Merryweather fight. So he found some of his friends in town. So he was absolutely pooped. And then we had to get up really early on the Sunday to be back in time for Conrad's fight for weigh-in. And then, of course, he was corner guy. So it was a bit of a long weekend and it's taken us a while to recover. And we've had to, we still work. For those of you that are new, Dave and I own our own gym in Cardiff. And we've had people on leave and all sorts. So we're struggling to balance kids and work and all the rest of it. But we're getting there. And like I said, only a couple more weeks. And then everything goes back to normal. So we're quite looking forward to that. But I'm absolutely exhausted. When you're so tired that actually it hurts to blink. I've got to that stage now, not helped by the fact that Dave has come down with a sinus infection, so he is snoring like a stuck pig at the moment. I actually gave up and took myself off to the spare room just because neither of us were getting any sleep. Anyway, that said, that will explain why some of my crafting has been quite simple, because I am on the edge of just going back to bed for a week. Right, so I'm going to jump into pins, my sewing section. I mentioned last week that my next planned project was going to be some butterick culottes, and I have decided to shelve that project, to be honest. The fabric I had in mind that I showed you, that lovely palm leaf drapey rayon, I've just missed the boat. That's a summer sew and it's now September, and if you could see out of my front window, it's grey and very windy. So I'm going to put those aside. You can make them in heavier fabrics. I could make it in a light denim, so maybe I'll get round to that. But instead, I have decided to take part in the Instagram sewing challenge. I don't know if you've heard of it. It is hashtag Cosy Cardi challenge. I've got to check my show notes. Like I said, very tired. So the hashtag Cosy Cardi challenge is super simple. All you have to do is sew a cardigan by the 31st of October. Any pattern you like, big four, indie, doesn't matter. All they ask is that it is definitely open at the front. You can have buttons and closures on it, but it must be a cardigan and not a jumper. It's being organised by @AmandaTurner1977, this one's a bit of a tongue twister, @SheSewVintage and @Sodbury Sewing. And if you check out Amanda Turner's blog, which is isewalot.wordpress.com, there's all of the details on there, the rules and things. And the prize list is fantastic. There's PDF downloads, there's fabric bundles from Girl Charlie, there's vouchers to Satisfaction, free patterns from Muse. It's really fab. I'm not that fussed about winning prizes, to be perfectly honest. I've got more than enough to keep me going. But I had such fun. I did the Manita dress challenge back in March of this year, and it's just so much fun and so motivating to just search on the hashtag on your phone and see all the patterns and all the fabrics that everyone's using. And it's a really good way of finding other sewing bloggers to follow and find some new friends. So yeah, hashtag Cosy Cardi challenge. And I have had the Blackwood cardigan pattern by Helen's Closet for quite a while now. If you remember, I showed you the pattern because Sarah from Print Your Pattern or Print My Pattern? printyourpattern.com, I think. Again, I'll leave links below. She very kindly offered to send me a free printout of my pattern because I'd mentioned her on the podcast. So I've had it printed off for quite a while. And I've decided that that's going to be my pattern. So this is it. So it's the Blackwood cardigan by Helen's Closet. I'm going to be doing this one. This is view A. So you can see from here, it comes down to mid-thigh. It's quite a long version and very simple. It's just back, two fronts, sleeves, pockets, front band and cuffs. Nothing complicated at all. And from the point of view of adapting it for my height, because I am 6'1", I follow another Instagrammer and blogger called So DIY. She's an Australian lady who is 5'11", and she's made one of these, and she said she didn't actually need to adapt it for length whatsoever because it is so long. So I think if you're a fairly standard height person, it's mid-thigh. For me, it's going to come a few inches above that, but that's absolutely fine. It's still a very nice length. And the sleeves, it's a bit hard to see from the illustration, but can you see there's a bit of a wrinkle in the sleeve? They're supposed to be very slouchy sleeves. So I did make sure to measure the sleeve length, and they're long enough for me. So if I read this, it says, designed with layering in mind, it has minimal excess fabric in the front and a close fit around the neck and shoulders. Its fitted shape and extra long sleeves make it perfect for wearing under jackets and vests. The blackwood is intended to be worn open and is not designed to close at the front. And it's classed as advanced beginner. And the sizes range from extra small to 2XL US sizing. Light to medium weight jersey knit fabrics with at least 40% widthwise stretch and 20% lengthwise stretch. Make it in a sweater knit for a warm layer or a thinner knit for a light cover up. Now, as with all indie patterns that I've found so far, the pattern directions are absolutely wonderful. This is the A4 printout of the instructions, which I did myself, and they are super, super good. She even has tips for sewing with knits and this handy measuring guide so you can test if your fabric has enough stretch, which is of course only handy if you don't buy it off the internet because then it's too late. So when it came to choosing a size for this, because it's designed to be worn, it's not designed to close, it is supposed to sit like that, it's not supposed to actually meet in the middle. So when I was trying to decide what size I was going to cut out, I remembered the tips that Vinca56 and Luli gave me on Instagram, which was to stop looking at the finished garment measurements on the instructions or the pattern pieces and just measure the actual pattern pieces themselves. So because of the style of this cardigan, I decided the most important measurements would be my back measurement, so sort of armpit to armpit but at the back, and my upper arm circumference. This pattern is designed to be worn with about 1/2 inch of positive ease. So I planned for the XL size, which I needed for the back length and arm circumference. I actually only need a large, I think, for the rest of it, but to be honest, it's a casual open-fronted cardigan, and I just thought, no, just make the XL up and down, it'll be absolutely fine. So that's what I have done. I ordered fabric from Minerva Crafts because I love them, and it is a textured stripe pattern stretch jersey knit fabric, and I ordered 2 meters and some matching Gutermann thread. The code for the fabric is MF132023, and again I'll leave the links down below. I wanted just a useful navy because navy is my black, so for the autumn I thought it would be quite handy. And it's this lovely, oh, I'm attached with pins. There we go. Can you see there's these little lines? That's the texture pattern. And this actually made it quite nice for cutting out, because when you have a grain line on a pattern, it's much easier to match it up to the stripes than constantly measuring across from the selvage. So that's the fabric I'm using. And you see, it's very simple shape. This is one of the front pieces. There's a slight curve out to the hip. Look how long it is. It's super long. It does have lengthen and shorten lines on it, so sorry, just making sure my pins don't come out. So yeah, that's going to be a very handy basic pattern. And when I put this up, sorry for the crinkling, when I put this up on Instagram, quite a few people have said, oh, let me know how that goes, because they're keen on making one too. So first impressions, I'm loving it. I think it's going to be a really super quick sew. As I said, the patterns are absolutely, the instructions are really, really good. And if that works out well, I can see me making lots more versions of that. I also thought it would make quite a good gift sewing project. So if you like sewing for other people, obviously fitting can be an issue if you want it to be actually a surprise. But I thought, oh, actually that would be rather good. So if you know someone's dress measurement, you could quite easily pick a size from this and sew them up. A blackwood cardigan, and yeah, I don't think there would be any major fitting issues. So if any of you are starting to think about Christmas sewing for other people, maybe consider the blackwood cardigan. Right, on to needles, my knitting bit. I have a finished object and a special guest. So I knitted Max the Weasley jumper, which is a free pattern on Ravelry by a lady called Alison Hansel. Why did you need a Weasley jumper?
Because we're going on a school trip for 3 days and it's Harry Potter themed.
That's right. So stand up. Come and stand by here, look. Look. Look at the awesomeness. Let's get a close-up of the M on the front. Wow. Come and sit down. So what do you think? Are you pleased?
Yeah, why wouldn't I?
Well, you never really know until it's finished if it's going to suit you. Do you think it'll be warm and cosy?
Yeah, it feels warm and cosy now.
And have you got room for growth?
Yes.
Plenty of room for growth.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm glad you liked it. I mentioned before that with this pattern, when you want to put the initial on the front, you can either use the intarsia method of knitting, which I'm not a fan of, or you can use duplicate stitch. So I had some different coloured yarn, and this yarn is Hayfield Bonus Aran, I can't remember the colourway, and this yarn is King Cole Fashion Aran in the colourway Mull, which is 440. So it's a lovely tweedy yarn. It's a 70% acrylic, 30% wool mix. I hadn't done duplicate stitch before, so somebody on Instagram, I can't remember who it was, suggested Very Pink Knits on YouTube. So I found her tutorial and did that. And overall, I think it's come out rather well.
Yeah.
So it's got a rolled collar. It's knit in pieces and then seamed together, but it's dead straight seaming, very easy. I didn't do mattress stitch because I'd had 2 glasses of gin at the time. So I just whip stitched the sides, as beautifully modelled by my smallest boy.
Yeah.
So yeah, overall I'm really pleased with how that came out. It's a brilliant pattern. It goes from tiny little kids all the way up to grown-ups, so if you want one yourself you can absolutely do that. I know that Melissa and Jenny have both got to knit some of these for their kids, so there might be a few of these popping up on Ravelry.
And you're going to make a mini Hedwig, aren't you?
I certainly am. I'm going to try and make a mini Hedwig out of this yarn. This is Hayfield Bonus Aran as well. Again, I can't remember the colourway. But Hedwig, what sort of owl is Hedwig?
A snow owl.
A snowy owl. So I thought this would work rather well because it's got like little flecks of colour in it, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And so you're going to take your Hedwig and your jumper on a big school trip, and you're going to be doing outdoorsy type things, aren't you?
Yeah.
And are you allowed to get your jumper mucky and filthy?
Yes.
Yes, you are, because that's what kids' knits are for. Yay. So yeah, that's Max's Weasley jumper. Thank you very much for coming on my podcast. Say bye-bye to the viewers.
Bye. Do you need us back?
Okay, I hope you enjoyed meeting Max. That was my only finished object for the last couple of weeks. I have had some new cast-ons though. The first of which is the Sockhead Cowl by Kelly McClure. This is a free pattern on Ravelry. I'm sure you've all heard of the Sockhead hat. It's by the same lady. And all she's done is just not make it a hat. So you cast on, I think it's something like 160 stitches, and you knit 4 inches of ribbing, and then you weigh your yarn and you remember how much yarn you need to do ribbing. and then you just knit round and round and round until you've used up nearly all your yarn, and then you knit more ribbing and then you bind off. So it's basically a super slouchy cowl. You can wear it as a snood, you can double it up, you can just let it big folds around your neck, and I'm absolutely loving it. This yarn is amazing. This was a gift from Melissa, hi Melissa, quite a while ago, and it is my first and only merino cashmere nylon blend yarn, and it is gorgeous. It's super soft, a real pleasure to knit with. I'm knitting it on my Knit Pro fixed circulars, 3mm. It's the Novas, so they're super slippy, so this goes nice and fast, and you just go round and round and round. And I've got my Cadbury's Cream Egg stitch marker. I don't actually like Cadbury's Cream Eggs, they make me feel a bit sick, but the stitch marker is very cool. I can't remember where I got them from, but whoever makes them actually use some of the proper tin foil off the Cadbury's Cream Eggs, so it's genuine. So this is my yarn. It's looking a bit sad. This is my travel knitting at the moment, or rather it's my brainless knitting, and I have been a bear of very little brain recently, so this has been getting quite a lot of work. And this is by the Ladybug Fibre Company, and it is superwash merino cashmere nylon sock yarn. It's 80% merino, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon. And it's the February 2016 self-striping sock club in the Winter Sunsets colourway. Now it came with a matching mini, so that was the main, and then it came with this mini which picks up the grey, and this wasn't MCN, this is cuff, heel and toe mini skein, 20 grams, 25 grams I think it was, superwash merino nylon sock in the colourway Stormy. Now I was considering using this for the ribbing, but you've got to do 4 inches of ribbing, and I didn't think that little bit would be enough yarn. So I've decided to keep this for cuffs, heels and toes on something else, and I'm just going to do the whole thing in one colour. So I'm going to knit 400 grams, no I'm not, 400 metres of sock yarn, round and round and round and round, and then wear it. I love the colours. I don't know if they suit me, but I don't think I care, because I love them, and I'm at the age now where I don't care anymore, really, actually. So I'm going to wear this, and it's going to be lovely. And my waterproof coat that I wear about 90% of the year is a very boring grey colour, so this will look lovely peeking out of the top, and I think that the grey stripes are going to match it beautifully, so I will be all coordinated. So that's a lot of what I've been working on. I've had a lot of time in the car, I've had a lot of time standing around waiting, so that's been getting a lot of love. So thank you very much, Melissa, for giving me that yarn. I can't even remember when you gave it to me. Was it when you came to see me? Or did you post it to me? I can't remember. Anyway, it's marvellous. The other thing, the other whip I wanted to show you is my shawl. Oh, I haven't got the pattern. 1 second. I've got my knitting bag over here, and hopefully it's in here somewhere. This one? Yes. Got it. Right. I fancied something. Ooh, sorry, I just knocked it with my teacup. I fancied a super lacy something. I hadn't done anything massively complicated for a while. Max's jumper was just stocking stitch. My cowl is just stocking stitch. Not terribly exciting. And quite a few months ago, I was given a pattern on Ravelry, and it's the Loden shawl by Irina Dmitrieva, which is part of the Wool People collection number 9 by Brooklyn Tweed. And this is it. Now, I'm not sure if you can see, but it's got a smocking stitch on it. You sort of gather the base of the leaves by here, which I've never done before. And it's a very large shawl. You need 710 yards of fingering weight wool yarn, and you knit it on a size 4mm. and it should end up 56-inch wingspan and 28 inches height at the centre spine. Now, Brooklyn Tweed has a skill level index out of 5, and this is a 4 out of 5 pattern. What does it say? I've got this all in the wrong thing. Oh, it says it's a formal garden of smocked stitches worked from the edge up with botanical motifs and open work. I think that means lace. The smocking rings a single stitch around its neighbours, gathering up clusters that also decrease the stitch count to achieve the shaping. Loden is active knitting. They don't mean you need to do this while out and about. It means there's always something on the right side rows. Okay, so you cast on hundreds of stitches. It's a bottom-up shawl rather than a top-up shawl. And that in itself is quite an achievement, just getting that cast on. The yarn I am knitting it in is Araucania Ranco Solid in the colourway PT486. This is some of my oldest, deepest stash yarn. I've only been knitting about, how old is Max? Max is 10, so I've probably been knitting about 7 years, something like that. And this is some of the very first nice yarn that I treated myself to. So it's deepest, darkest stash. And I've got 2 skeins of this tonal foresty green colour yarn. Absolutely my colours. Being a redhead, I suit shades of compost, basically. Yeah, garden colours, autumn colours. So I've got 2 skeins of this. I haven't yet decided if I'm going to alternate skeins. Normally with hand-dyed yarn, I would do, but they don't look terribly different to me. So I'm going to see how I go. I might not. That's probably going to come back and bite me in the bum, isn't it? But we'll see. Anyway, so I got my pattern printed out, I got my yarn wound up, I've got a magnet board which I use for lace work with sort of magnets that can separate the rows. I can't show you that because it's got the pattern on it and it is a paid for pattern. And would you like to see how far I've got? That's it. Oh my God. They're not lying when they say this is an active knit. So I cast on what I'm going to assume is the correct number of stitches, and I knit the first row, and, well no, not even the first row. I haven't even got to the centre and I've mucked it up already. I think I misunderstood the pattern. The way the chart works is, and I'm sure if you've knit lace you'll be familiar with this, you have sort of a beginning set of stitches for the pattern, and then you have a repeating section, and then you have another section, and then you have your centre stitch. So you knit the first bit, you knit the repeat a certain number of times, then you knit the final bit, centre stitch, and then you repeat it all over again for the other half. Unfortunately, I need to double check this, but it doesn't tell you in the pattern how many times you need to knit the 12 stitch repeat in the middle. So that's what happened. So I just knitted the repeat section all the way up to the centre spine and realised I didn't have the correct number of stitches left to complete the end section. So what I have to do is tink back about 200 lace stitches and do some counting. I need to mark off the end of the first section and the beginning of the end section, and then I should have a multiple of 12 stitches between those 2 places, which will be my repeating section. So as I mentioned, I'm on the verge of a nervous breakdown through exhaustion, so I thought maybe I would just put this to one side. So really all I can show you for this is some of my fantastic stitch markers. I've got another Cadbury's Cream Egg. I've got my little dog paws in a heart. Yay, that Sally Louisa sent me. I've got some cheap plastic ones from Claire's Accessories. I've got a teapot with tiger's eye stone in it that Jenny made for me. Oh, these were a present from Alison from my knitting group for Christmas. And then, can you see, is it going to focus on this? Maybe if I put it in front of my face. There we go. These are my little Russian doll stitch markers, and these are from Atomic Knitting. And again, they're some of the first nice ones I treated myself to. What else have I got? Oh, the other ones I've got are these ones. These are some of my favourites. They're solid metal with a little sort of bead. And these I bought off Etsy. I think it's fripperies and bibelots, something like that. But yes, I've had to use pretty much everything I've got because I wanted to mark out every 12 stitch repeat. Not that it did me any good. So that's my other work in progress. I think what I will do is wait until my children have gone back to school, and then I will have some peace and quiet to work out exactly what it is I did wrong. But I'm very pleased to be using some of my deepest stash yarn. It's a lovely colour, and I'm planning on sewing myself a tunic dress out of some mustard colour Ponte Roma, and I think that this will go really well. So I'll have an outfit. I don't normally have outfits, I normally wear clothes, but this might be classed as an outfit. So that's rather good. Right, I've got a couple of knitting acquisitions I wanted to share with you, and I have my lovely daughter Jocelyn with me today.
See you again.
And we wanted to say an enormous hello to Leslie of Duckpool Lane.
Hello.
Hi Leslie.
Hello.
Leslie's been a viewer for a while, and we've been following each other.
Viewers,
I'm not sure when she joined actually.
you can tell if you click on subscribers, then you can still use subscribers.
Oh. Anyway, she's been watching for a while, and we've been following each other on Instagram. And she very kindly sent us a parcel, didn't she?
Yes, they're beautiful. I love it a lot.
So what did she send for you?
She sent me this purse, and it has beach huts on, because we live by the beach, and they've made new beach huts, little boats.
And look, there's a little label on the side. Isn't that fabulous?
It says Duckpool Lane.
Duckpool Lane, that's her Etsy shop.
And then the little polka dots inside.
Oh, look at that. And what else was in your parcel?
Buttons.
Oh, look. Leslie and I agree that every budding crafter needs a button jar. I
don't have a button jar.
I have a big glass jar full of buttons, and this is the very start of Jocelyn's own button jar.
This is my favourite one. It's a little kitty.
We struggled to find a favourite, didn't we? Because there were so many lovely ones.
But what's yours favourite?
I think my favourite is that one. It's a painted wooden one. And there's cat ones as well. So that's what Justin was sent. And Leslie sent me some lovely things too, including this card. Look, beach hats.
I did get a card, but I couldn't find it. I promise I still have it.
It had cats on, didn't it, yours? But this is beach huts. She said she couldn't resist it, and it's lovely. I'm going to save this and frame it and put it on my craft room wall. And she sent me, you can if you like, a stitch marker progress keeper that is in the same shape as Demelza the dummy. And there's her card. So she is Duckpool Lane at etsy.com. So do go and find her. She makes beautiful bags. Oh, yeah. And this is what Leslie sent to me. Yuck! She knows me so well. Purple is my favourite colour. It's a fabulous size, this. It's hard to do it without hiding my face. But I've got 2 full skeins of fingering weight yarn in here. And as you can see, there's still plenty of space. And a lovely sturdy handle. A nice zip on the top. And you know what I'm like for corners? Look. Spot on, Leslie.
Spot on.
Spot on.
You deserve
and mine,
cheers to that with your puppet tea.
And mine's got a nice pale pink lining. I like quite light coloured linings for my knitting bags because then you can see what's at the bottom. So, stunning project bag.
What is your mannequin's name again? Because I keep on forgetting.
It's Demelza the dummy.
Demelza!
And she also very kindly sent me this little mini skein. She doesn't dye yarn herself. This is from a local to her indie dyer in the northeast of the UK called Mother of Pearls. So she might be on Etsy, I'm not sure, but that's lovely. So thank you very much. So really, overall...
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you, Leslie. I forgot where my buttons are, but thank you anyway.
I think you've seen 2 out of 3 of my children now. So, yeah, just me again. On to some other acquisitions. I treated myself to the Skeindeer Knits Mitten Secret Mitten Club. I can't remember the name. Selbu Mitten Club, thank you. And I mentioned this last week, and you get 1 pattern every month for September, October, November and December. They're all in the Norwegian colourwork tradition, and they're all in DK weight yarn. Now the first pattern was released on the 1st of September, which was 2 days ago. So if you don't want to know what it looks like, look away now. Okay, right. So these are the Mebonden mittens. And there they are. So this is supposed to be the easiest pattern, and it does look pretty easy. Lovely classic Selbu design, nice and pointy. So I printed that off, and I've got some stash yarn that I can use for this, which I think will be perfect. So I'm going to dig out that. I haven't had a chance to cast them on yet. I printed them off when I was at work yesterday. And yeah, haven't had the time to get going on them. But I'm really looking forward to that. I love, love, love mittens. I'm not a fan of gloves. I do like mittens. And in the winter, I get through so many knitwear items in a single day. Between dog walking and the school run and the rain, I'm wet constantly. So surprising I haven't got trench foot by now. So I often need 2 pairs of mittens a day because the first pair get wet and then they're not dry by the time you go back out. So, Mebonden mittens. The pattern, obviously, which I can't show you, is beautifully well written. It is charted. I'm very happy with reading charts. So if you are tempted by some beginner colour work, do go and have a look at this. I have another pattern acquisition on my monthly thread that I take part in on Ravelry. Every now and then you might win a prize if you finish something. And I finished quite a few objects, posted them in the thread, and I was lucky enough to be given a prize pattern download by Jay Fradine. I don't know if you watch Jay Fradine, but thank you very much. And I decided to be brave and pick a brioche pattern. Now, if you've been watching for a while, you will have seen that in January, I did a knit along, or a make along, because it was knitting or sewing or crochet or anything. And it was a newfangled make along. And the idea was that you picked a new technique, a new pattern, a new yarn to have a go at for the new year. And I chose brioche knitting, and I made myself a brioche mug rug. I can't remember the name of the designer, but it's in my project. And I found it quite a challenge. I really did. And I haven't touched brioche since. And then I was watching the Fruity Knitting podcast with Andrew and Andrea, if you've heard of them. And Andrew has been tackling brioche knitting and was doing a beanie hat. And I thought, well, if he can do it, maybe so can I. And apparently brioche in the round is easier than brioche flat. There's less prattling about pushing your stitches back and forth. You just go round and round. So the pattern I picked was After the Rain Brioche Cowl by Joy McMillan. Now this is the dyer behind the Knitting Goddess yarns, which if you're a UK knitter, I'm sure you've heard of. She's at all the festivals. Big fan of British yarns. And she does some mini skein sets. I want to show you this without giving the pattern away. What she calls colour wheel sets, and there's one of them pictured. And I was aching to buy one of these at Edinburgh, but I didn't. I was very good. Anyway, so it's a super simple pattern. You cast on and you brioche rib round and round, and the effect, if you use her colour wheel, is that. I'm just going to cover my face so you can see. So you have one main colour, and then you use her minis to get the rainbow effect. So I thought that would be great for using up scraps of 4-ply yarn, which I've got loads of in my stash. All I need to do is settle on a main colour yarn, and I can be away. So those are my 2 pattern acquisitions. I do have some new yarn but I didn't buy it. Jenny of Owl About Yarn, warning, product placement, are working on another collaboration. And I have come up with another knitting pattern design, and she has dyed me up some yarn. Now this is her BFL nylon suck yarn. I don't know if she's decided on a name yet, but she dyed me up a skein of this and gave it to me the last time we saw each other. So I'll be casting on something with this, but I won't be able to show you because it's a secret. So this is all the peaks you're going to get until that's ready to come out. So yeah, BFL nylon sock yarn, owlaboutyarn.etsy.com. And then my last acquisition is possibly the most beautiful acquisition. As I said, I own and run a gym in Cardiff with my husband, and we have a little yoga studio that we rent out. And Tori, one of the instructors, hi Tori, is also crafty. She's a crochet person. Crochet is magic. I can't figure it out. So when she comes in on Thursdays to teach, I'm on shift. So she brings me in things that she's been working on, and I show her what I've been working on, and we have a little crafty chat. And all the meatheads at the gym think we're crazy. Anyway, she very kindly gave me this. Oh, this is the most beautiful paperweight. But she does watch, and she knows that I use pattern weights, and she thought that this would be perfect, and that I would get more use out of it than her. And I absolutely love it. It's just clear glass. It's got, yeah, you can see it's got like a flat bottom, so it'll sit steadily. And it's got bubbles in it, and I don't know how they do that, but it's really lovely. It kind of looks like a galaxy. So thank you, Tori. I really love this. So I've got a new pattern weight to add to my collection of tins of tuna. I had to cut my Blackwood cardigan pattern out on the carpet because the dining room table was just too full of clutter. So I did actually use pins for my Blackwood cardigan, but next time I'm definitely using this. If you follow me on Instagram, you will have seen that Jim the dog also helped weigh down my patterns. Very helpful. Right, on to my final section. I haven't had this section for months, I don't think, and this is my Two's Company section, which is just where I point you in the direction of interesting things that I've heard or been watching of a crafty nature that I thought you might be interested in. Now, if you're on social media, I would be surprised if you haven't already heard of this, but there is a new audio sewing podcast out, and it's called Love to Sew, and it is two ladies. It's Helen Wilkinson, who's the Helen's Closet designer of my cardigan, and her friend Caroline Somos, who runs blackbirdfabrics.com. They're both Canadian, they're based in Vancouver, and they met through Instagram and have become firm friends and have started this sewing podcast. So there are 3 episodes out already, and they are fabulous. It's a really friendly, cosy chat. You can see how well they get on. And they've had some nice interviews. They've interviewed the nice blonde lady who's Cashmerette Designs. I can't remember her name, might be Lauren. And I was listening to the one about their fabric stashes, so that's really enjoyable. I do like an audio podcast, so if you've got some time, it's on iTunes. I listen through Podcast Republic, but I'm sure you can find them, and they also have a website. I think it's lovetosewpodcast.com, don't quote me on that. And I have a second audio podcast, which isn't actually crafting necessarily. It's called How I Built This. And in their description, they describe themselves as a podcast about innovators, entrepreneurs and idealists. And it is a wonderfully eclectic mix of interviews with people that have invented something or started a business. And the variety of things is fantastic. And you might think, no, I'm not particularly interested in that subject, but if you listen to it, you will be. So I'm a independent business person, so I am interested. It is it's not a business podcast at all, even though it is about businesses. But it is encouraging to listen to how other people have managed things. And as I said, a hugely diverse range of topics. What put me onto it in the first place is I heard that they had an interview with the chap that invented the TRX straps. Now, if any of you train in gyms, you'll have seen these great big webbing straps that you attach over squat racks and you use them to do bodyweight exercises. And I thought to myself, we've got lots of those in my gym. Oh, I must tell Dave, that will be interesting, because the guy that invented it is also ex-forces, as is my husband. Anyway, so that's what got me into it, and it was a fascinating interview, but they cover a huge range of topics. They also speak to the people that invented the Lonely Planet guides, so if you're a travel nut, you might enjoy that. The person that invented Toms, you know, the sort of the slip-on shoes, and the guy that set up Kickstarter. So really, if you fancy a break from crafting podcasts, do go and have a look. How I Built This, again, find them on iTunes or Podcast Republic. They really are well worth a listen. That is everything I have for you this week. This might come out a little bit shorter than usual, I'm not sure. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up and click subscribe. Come and follow me on Instagram, pinsandneedlesuk. Also follow at the Knit Tea Retreat to keep up to date with all the retreat news. And I hope you have a fabulous 2 weeks with lots of crafting time, and hopefully I will be a little less knackered the next time we meet. Take care. Bye.